This is the Bates Bobcast, our weekly podcast where we take a look at the week that was in Bates athletics. My name is Aaron Morse, and each week this spring we will be honoring the seniors of a Bates team that did not get to finish its season due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This week, we chat with 4 seniors from the men's track and field team, plus an interview with head coach Al Fereshetian. That's coming up on the Bates Bobcast. The Bates men's track and field team qualified 5 student athletes for the 2020 NCAA Indoor Championships, but the COVID-19 pandemic caused the NCAA to cancel nationals the day before the Bobcats were scheduled to compete in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Of the 5 men's track and field athletes supposed to compete at NCAAs, 2 were seniors, Justin Levine and team captain Brendan Donahue. This week, they joined the Bobcast on the phone, along with senior captains Beaufils, Kimpolo, and Reda.
Anas, I want to start with you. We haven't had you on the show before, so I wanted to start with you in terms of your background, originally hailing from Casablanca in Morocco. How did you wind up coming to Bates here for college, and how did you end up joining the track and field team?
So I lived in Morocco for my whole life up until I was 18 years old. Then I graduated high school, and I somehow got into Bates and ended up here. During my first few weeks on campus, I contacted Coach Fresh, and he said that he was willing to give me a try out for the team, and then everything just, went on from there. It was just a very, very fun 3.5 years of a lot of hard work and just a lot of joy on the track. So I'm really glad I reached out to him at the beginning of my first year.
How did you end up finding out that Bates might be an opportunity for you to go to college?
I applied to Bates just as a try. For me, it was a big reach school. So I just applied because of its how good of a school it is academically, and I got in. And the school worked very hard to make it possible for me to attend. So they were very generous in all their doings. And, things just worked out, and everything worked out for me to come here. So, everything was just worked out perfectly.
Excellent. We'll get back to you in a moment. Let's go over to Brendan here. Brendan being one of your fellow senior captains on this team. Brendan, obviously, you finished your career on a high note with the PR there, right, in the heptathlon at New England D3s. But how have you been processing kind of this abrupt stop to the season? I know it's got to be a little tough here, but we've had a few weeks to kind of think about it. What have you kind of been thinking about in terms of looking back on your career at Bates?
I mean, like Anas said, I'm grateful for the opportunity and this kind of the supportive network we've had between coaches and then athletes over the years. It's definitely something very unique to Bates athletics and also track and field. But I'm going to miss it, and I think those first couple days I was really emotional, and I still am, but not to the same extent, because I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to be a part of something that I miss so much. But moving forward, I still haven't stopped training, although I don't really know what I'm training for, but it's kind of, I want to continue through at least to the end of the spring season, whether or not it's track specific. I think it's just something to carry on for the rest of my life. And so I'm definitely grateful for the program and every opportunity it afforded me.
And then Beaufils, I'm curious for you. I mean, you're a guy who not only played soccer here, but, ran track and field indoor and outdoor, so you were always in season. What was that experience like for you, throughout your time here at Bates, always being in season here?
I mean, I can't complain really because I love doing what I did. And so I feel like it made my Bates experience a lot more valuable. But it's definitely a lot of commitment. And it's a lot of time management. It takes a lot of, honestly, athletics takes a lot of time out of my academic schedule, but it also adds the structure to my daily routines, my daily life, and adds discipline and everything athletic brings. So it kind of helps me focus in a way. And in the days where I'm not playing sports, I just feel like my day weren't what I want them to be. So they don't really feel like I've done anything productive. So I think being a 3-sport athlete is definitely challenging, but it was also a rewarding experience, at least for me, in my experience here at Bates.
Certainly. And then, Justin, you were also always in season, obviously running on the cross-country team as well. You really had quite the senior year in track. I mean, you were setting PRs, it seemed like, every single week. What did it mean to you, to qualify for NCAAs like you did as a senior? Obviously, unfortunately, got canceled the day before it was supposed to start. But what did it mean to you to get that qualification in track and field? Because you'd been there for cross-country, but never for track before.
Yeah, as Brendan and Anas and Beaufils kind of pointed out, being on the team for a while has really been a privilege and something that I'm grateful to have been a part of. And like you said, being, three-season type athlete, with cross-country being in the fall, that also meant the summer for training. So, yeah, I kind of going into college knew that commitment would have to be necessary if I wanted to kind of do distance running in college. So I kind of did set myself up ready to go for 4 years. And yeah, I'm still blown away by the results. I, just worked really hard each day and had great teammates to work around with, lots of motivation. And yeah, after we kind of had a disappointing end to our cross-country season, a group of the guys and I on the distance squad just rallied around each other, and we knew we had one of two options. We could either, especially for me as a senior, just kind of coast it in and, yeah, we had a good run, or, kind of take the approach we wound up having, which was to really, put the foot on the gas and give it our best shot because it would be the last time we'd all be together. And, I mean, it turned out, absolutely fantastic. We, as you know, had 5 guys qualify for nationals, which is the most, at least that I can remember. Maybe there was one time, 20, 30 years ago before that. But it was truly special to have all of our guys, Bart Rust and Ryan Nealis in my training group to make it as well. And then to have Brendan and Johnny also have clutch performances to make it was truly a dream season for myself and the guys.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up with you about that because you have fellow seniors, Gabe Benson and Jack McLarnon are also distance runners just like you are. What did they bring to the table all 4 years, kind of grinding it out with you there in cross-country and in track and field?
Jack and Gabe have been a special part of our program, just like some of the seniors that kind of, were there from the beginning. And then, running's a tough sport, and it was the same when my dad ran at Brandeis. The team fades. That's just kind of how it is. So we started with 9 men, and for our distance squad, we finished with 3. But, and that kind of just shows really what I'm thinking, for Jack and Gabe. It shows the perseverance they had to stick with it, and run and run and run through adversity, the good times, the tough times. And, I tip my cap to them for staying with it. And it was really nice to see Gabe had a PR in his final race at New England's. And Jack fought back really strong from kind of an injured cross season to get back into really good shape. And I know those guys were really looking forward to outdoor, but they had great careers, and it's been a pleasure running with them.
Excellent. I want to pivot to academics real briefly here. For Anas in particular, I know you're working on an honors thesis in epigenetics with Andrew Kennedy. Tell me a little bit about that and how you've developed your topic and what's that experience been like. I know you're on campus still working on it. One of the few people left there on campus, but tell me a little bit about that honors thesis you're working on.
So I've been working with Andrew Kennedy for the last 3 years, and last year, around, I think, April, he thought that it'd be a good idea for us to try and do an honors thesis, and we went ahead and tried to do that, and things just worked well for us. We worked very well together. The rest of my lab, Ashley Pratt from the women's team is in it. Just the rest of my lab have done a fantastic job in supporting me and supporting each other to really produce magnificent work. Our lab tech, Beth Malakowski, has sacrificed hundreds of hours trying to help us get to where we're at now. So I think the honors thesis is nice and all for myself, but I think what's really matters is all the people that really made it possible for me to have this at the end of the day. Yeah, I turned it in last week, and it was a very good experience. Just everything went very smoothly just because the support system here at Bates from people on and off the track team has just been magnificent. So, yeah, it wasn't really my credit. It was all the people who came together to make this possible.
Was it a sense of relief when you turned it in, a sense of accomplishment, a little bit of both? How are you feeling?
I think most of all just a sense of maybe a little bit of pride, but a lot of humility to realize, throughout this process, I realized how much I didn't know and how much I had to learn. So it was a very good learning experience for me. And, yeah, at the end of the day, it feels nice to submit it and to have that, be part of my Bates career. But like I said, it's little credit should go to me. Most of it should go to my advisor and to my friends, to everyone who really made it possible for me to have the opportunity to work on this project for, a little over 3 years. So it's pretty good.
Excellent. Beaufils, I'm wondering, the experience of being team captain with Anas and Brendan and Jeremy and Johnny Rex as well. What has that experience been like being one of the captains this year for the indoor track and field team this season? Because those are pretty strong ones, obviously, for the Bobcats.
I thought it was pretty interesting just to be able to, step up. Because 4 years ago I was, part of the team, not knowing what was going on, and then 4 years later I'm here as one of the leaders on the team. It's quite I think for me, to sum it up, it's a blessing really to be able to be someone who people look up to, someone who's always positive, brings in the energy, and always treat everyone with respect. It doesn't matter if you're first year or senior. So for me, it's been pretty rewarding out there to work alongside Anas, Brandon, and Johnny, because they all bring to the table different experiences, different backgrounds. We all do different events. And so it's always kind of interesting to see what our fellow captains are doing, how are they going about the days, and what sort of leadership experiences or background do they bring to the table, and how can I learn from them?
Yes. Well, speaking of, you mentioned all the different events. You personally were doing what? Triple jump, long jump, high jump, 60-meter hurdles. What was that like? Especially every single year, something like the men's state of Maine championship, you were in 6 different events, or something close to that. What was that kind of like? Doing all those different events at meets throughout your career.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting because I love competing. So when the week comes every Monday, when we have the meet sheet that comes out, I'm always excited to see what Coach Fresh puts me into. But even though most of the time I already know what event I'm doing, sometimes I can kind of influence his choices. But over the years, I've come to realize that I will do whatever it takes for the team. I will do whatever it takes for the team to succeed and to be able to contribute to the success of, the team. And so me doing 5 events just goes on to speak volume to the type of person that I am and what I'm willing to do and the sacrifices I'm willing to make for my team.
Well, Brendan, obviously you were a multi-sport athlete with the heptathlon and the decathlon. You mentioned you were still doing some training, I think, in terms of you're not quite sure what you're training for, but you want to keep obviously going a little bit. Tell me about that process. Like, it's got to be a weird feeling, I suppose.
Definitely. First off, I want to say Bo has been a warrior and an day out for the past 4 years. I look at our freshman state meet, and Beaufils was scoring a whole bunch of points, and he was stepping up to a role that was much higher than a freshman. And I think I looked up to him, and I wanted to be better for that because Bo was from the get-go doing good. So I think that was kind of my incentive to kind of invest in this sport. But now that I'm not training for 7 events or in the outdoors 10 events, it's definitely weird. And I've been chatting with some of the other seniors across Division III that do the HEP and the multi. And we're kind of all bouncing around ideas of like what's the future holds, and kind of just talking about training regimens. And so I've just been hiking a lot and actually running more, which is kind of weird for me, but I've made sure to continue Olympic lifting, and it's definitely something I've developed a passion for. So it's weird, but I think in the long run it will be healthy just to continue practicing some of these lifts and running.
Justin, I think off the air we mentioned you were thinking about grad school. In terms of your immediate future, what are your thoughts on? Obviously, there in theory you could go to grad school and you could run somewhere else for a semester. So what are your thoughts on that possibility?
Yeah, so like Brendan, I'm definitely keeping my options open. So I got back on the grind this past week, and I've been running again. It's been nice. I've now that I'm in Florida and my whole family's here, my brother, he's been accompanying me alongside on the bike. So at least I, am not alone, kind of like a teammate. And yeah, I'm hoping to really study for the GREs this summer. And, depending on how that goes and my application process, keeping my options open for different schools. And yeah, the goal really, if I can stay in shape for an extended period of time would be to try to run in 2022 somewhere. I'm not sure. I'd, probably stick to the 5K or the 10K, that kind of route. I kind of was planning on running the 10K for the first time seriously this outdoor season. So now that opportunity kind of, didn't happen, maybe that's something I can look into, using in, a year or two. But yeah, it is a weird time, like Brendan said, just kind of not knowing what our future holds, not just in running, but, kind of the hiring process has kind of been halted for me. So we're kind of in limbo right now, as, most college seniors are across the country. It's a weird time. So, we're hoping this all clears up, and that when things are safe, we can look at those next steps.
Anas, I was curious, I touched on this earlier, but you and Beaufils, a few of the students who are still on campus. So what was that transition like? I know there was moving to be done. How did that go from your perspective when that was kind of all went down with, it being able to stay on campus but still having to reshape and rethink of how the rest of the semester is going to go, basically?
Yeah. So Beaufils and I are still on campus. Things here are pretty bare. We just get up, do our work, eat some food, and go to the gym, which is now in Ben Mays. Yeah, I mean, Bates without its community is nothing. So it's definitely very weird being on campus. But we try to make the best out of it and try to keep ourselves busy. As long as we're taking the necessary precautions to keep ourselves and our friends healthy, I think this is what we'll keep doing. And the weather has been pretty nice recently, so we try to go out onto Garcelon and just relax, while of course maintaining social distancing.
Sure. And then maybe a little bit happier topic, kind of looking back on your careers, each of you, maybe one or two meets that really stand out. I mean, I know you're talking about, State of Maine's always a big deal and whatnot, but I mean, throughout your, 3+ years, running for and participating in track and field for the Bobcats, and Nas, we'll start with you. A couple of meets that you'll remember down the line, you think?
For sure, I will remember my last meet, my senior year. I think that was at BU, and it was a very nice PR for me. The competition was very, very good. We ended up competing. Sorry, it wasn't the very last meet. I think it was before last or two away. But, yeah, it was just nice to know that all the time I put it to track, I could see progress over the 4 years, and that track is so easy, especially when you're at Bates, because I'm just surrounded by some of the best athletes in the country and easily some of the best in our region, New England. So when I see guys like Beaufils, like Brendan, Justin, Miles, Nabert working very hard every day, it's just very easy for me to follow along and maybe give my 2 cents here and there. But, yeah. And then maybe another meet would be State of Maine this year as well. We were projected to lose the meet by over 40 points. That's a lot of points in track. And that day, it felt like we truly came together as a team. Everything just clicked. Everyone was on the same page, and it was very, very nice to see everything just work out in our favor. Just everyone coming together, everyone giving it their all, sacrificing everything they had for the team. It was just very humbling to be part of something that obviously means so much more than just running around in circles or throwing heavy things around.
Beaufils, how about for you? Some memorable meets?
Yeah, I think for me, definitely all the State of Maine championships I've been part of. But also, I think the most important, at least for me, is the NESCAC championship my freshman year, which took place at Bowdoin. Just because the energy at NESCAC is different. It's something that I've never experienced before. And going into NESCAC, I didn't know what to expect. And so I just went in with the mindset of giving it everything I had in me. And obviously it turned out not to be a bad meet. But just the atmosphere at NESCAC, being able to compete alongside, all the NESCAC competitors who are also in the same kind of academically challenging institutions as some of us. And so I thought NESCAC was pretty interesting because and the thing about that meet also is that I kind of was hurt a little bit, but I gave it a best and came out with good results. So that's one of the meets I'll definitely remember because it was something that just opened my eyes to what being a student athlete in NESCAC actually meant.
Awesome. And then Justin, how about for you?
Yeah, so for me, as the guys said, states are a very special time for us, but also for me, really every New England meet that I've run in either cross country or indoor track or outdoor, for me personally has been like my go-to, my special races that I've had. Just always felt like I was able to put it together on those days, whether it was cross country or indoor, outdoor. And this last year, indoor, we ran at Springfield, and I had a wild race, I'll remember forever, where, the guys didn't want to take out the pace, and I was looking for a national qualifying time. So I ran the first 15 laps alone. And then when the guys came, the really good runners from Williams and MIT, just kind of hung in there with them and battled it out all the way to the finish line and wound up nabbing one of them, who was one of the runners I looked up to ever since he was a national champion in high school. And he runs for MIT, and he's a good friend of mine. But just kind of that one race was really special. Just to be competitive with those guys. Two of the Williams runners were already qualified for nationals, and the MIT guy was qualified as well. And right then and there, even if, I didn't wind up being fortunate enough to make nationals in the next meet, I kind of knew okay, this has really paid off. Like the guys were saying, all the hard work has come to fruition. And then I guess one other race. There's been so many special races, really every one of them. But that first time when we were when I broke 15 on our track,
right,
that was probably the greatest team experience I've ever had in track and field. As I sent you the video, and we had all the guys were so supportive, just cheering me on the entire time. They knew how much that barrier meant to me because I'd been really going at it for 3 years and I was unsuccessful. And then to do it on our track with all of our guys, right there at the finish line, that was one of the greatest, moments in my life, and I'll always remember that. So track and field has been wonderful. It's been a pleasure, getting to run with these guys. I was similar to Anas. I got off the waiting list. It was a last minute decision. I was going to Bates. Wasn't even one of the better runners in our recruiting class for cross country. And I'm sure some of these guys can say the same. And we just worked really hard, and it's been amazing that it's paid off for all all four of us on this call, but really just the whole team.
Brendan, I know you got a virtual class to get to, but memorable meets for you.
I would say it was sophomore year. Obviously, the creme de la creme for every season is the state meet because you actually feel like you're a part of a team, and seeing your teammates get sixth place or pick up a couple points here and there is like the greatest, most gratifying feeling as a teammate and just as a fan of the sport. But in terms of meets, I think that the two that stick out to me were outdoor Open New England's my sophomore year at Dartmouth. This was the biggest venue I think I've ever been to, but it was really nice having all the teammates that were there line up the fence to cheer on Hannah Austin in the 10K. It was kind of surreal with the lights, and it was a late night race. Justin also ran the lights, which was really cool to watch because it felt like it was prime time, and it was cool seeing track in that light. And then the other meet would probably be the Sylphin Invitational, which is usually a meet that you go down with the other multis. So last year I went with Liam. The year before I went by myself, actually with Coach Ellis. But those are really fun because oftentimes they'd be the meets that would be downpouring, and it was just about getting a mark out. But it kind of took all the pressure away from the sport, and you kind of got down to the base of, wow, I like doing this because I like track and field, and I think that there's something really beautiful about those moments. But all in all, like Justin said, this program's been kind of my outlet for the past 4 years, and so it's hard to see it go, but I guess I'm looking forward to the future ahead, and I'm hoping everyone stays healthy and safe in these worrisome times, but we'll get through them, and we'll be stronger than we were before.
Nicely said, Brendan Donahue, Beaufils Kimpolo, Justin Levine, and Reda. Thank you so much for joining us on the Bobcast. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bates men's track and field head coach Al Fereshetian joins us this week as well to talk about what the Bates seniors mean to the program.
They've been a great group, and we are certainly going to miss them. A lot of those guys have been an integral part of everything we've done for the last 4 years. So, it's kind of just a shame how things ended so abruptly and on the verge of such, good things that were happening and really to see all of these guys. One of the things we talk about an awful lot is the whole concept of finishing strong, and particularly to our senior class year in and year out. That's one of my big challenges, whether we have 6 or we have 10. The goal really is for them to close out what they've started and to do the best job that they can, and this group had really bought into that, so we were pretty excited about where we're going.
Yeah, I would say, looking at this group, Brendan Donahue might be the person I kind of feel the worst for almost, just because he had that unfortunate injury last year's outdoor nationals and didn't get to finish that. And this year was looking like a real strong in terms of the multi-events. What can you say about what he's done? And it's tough because you kind of always look back like, oh man, what if, right, for him because of some of the opportunities he was denied, basically.
Yeah, it is. It's tough in every situation, but Brendan's put his heart and soul into our program for the last 4 years, and to watch his development over the years, as a freshman, the first time we tried him in a multi-event, there was no way you would ever project that he would be where he ended up at the end of his career. But he's just been a tremendous, one of the best young men I've ever worked with, and really, I think he benefited greatly from coming into the program and having guys like Blake Downey and around to kind of set the tone for him, and some of our alums checking in from the past, like Eric Wayman, that just really encouraged him an awful lot through the process. And he was on the verge of some great things, and had he not fallen in that hurdle race last year outdoors at Nationals, he was on his way to a huge PR, and I think he probably may have been an All-American last year. So we had very high hopes for this year, and very disappointing to know that they're not going to get completed at least here, anyways.
He's still working out. He told me he's still training. He's not, he's not letting his time get to him that badly. That says a lot about him, right?
He's just a tremendous young man and just instrumental in so many things that we've done with our team. And like I said, just one of the most enjoyable people I've ever had a chance to work with. So we're going to miss having him around. I'm hoping that he actually will consider a graduate year next year, and potentially maybe still have that chance to finish out what what we've started. He wouldn't be here at Bates, of course, but I'd love to see him finish out what he started because he's right on the verge of being an All-American and just being, one of the all-time best that we've ever had here at Bates.
And then a couple other senior captains. I mean, Beaufils, Kimpolo, and I was talking with him about how, it seemed like every year the state meet was kind of his time to shine. He participated in so many events and scored so many points for the Bobcats over the years. What can you say about what he's done? Also, not only that, but balancing the soccer commitment as well in the fall.
Right. Well, I got to tell you that when I thought about all these guys a little bit, and the one thing, whenever I think of both, the one word that just jumps out to me is warrior. He's a warrior, and he is ready to jump into battle, and he's going to put on his game face, and he's going to be ready to go whenever you call on him. And the impact he's had over the years, particularly at the state meet, but at NESCAC, New England Div 3s, he's just been huge. And you're right. I mean, it shows how versatile he is to be, an outstanding soccer player in the fall and then come in and join us as a captain and be a great leader. He's a tremendous motivational leader. I think he fires everybody up on the team as much as anybody I've ever seen.
And then another senior captain, Reda, who we were talking about his honors thesis. He shines in the classroom. He's originally from Morocco and came to Bates and said, hey, I want to join track and field. And then he rose all the way up to captain. What leadership qualities did he bring that showed you why he should be one of the team leaders, here in his senior year, and also what he did, his past few years as a Bobcat?
It really speaks to his character. He is an extremely motivated, sincere, genuine person who just really cares about what he's doing and cares about doing the best that he can in any situation. He came in as a non-recruited walk-on, but his focus, his determination, he's got a great mind, as you've indicated, but he's also incredibly compassionate and really cares about his teammates, and that was very, very evident. And as we named him captain this year, he's been a leader by example and a very determined competitor. He's PR'd in almost every single meet we had this year, and that just speaks again to his commitment and his focus.
You mentioned the fact that he wasn't recruited, obviously, for track and whatnot, but track does get a fair amount of athletes who end up joining the team who maybe weren't recruited for that particular sport. And what do you tell them when they come to you and say, hey, I'd like to join the team? What do you tell them about what it takes to succeed in the program?
Well, first I'd say we're very thankful for the walk-ons that we've had because some of our greatest athletes over the years have been walk-ons. So you never know when you're going to find that diamond in the rough. And not to say that everybody is going to be capable of that at all times, but I'm a guy that likes to try to keep doors open as much as possible. Try to keep doors open and just see where the path goes. And sometimes you open a door and you find out that it's a beautiful journey. Other times you open a door, it doesn't quite work out so well. So, but I think bottom line is when he came in, he knew that. The one thing I do express to them is that, they probably, and a lot guys that are in that situation a lot of times don't have as much background as some of the guys that we've recruited, and we don't have as much time invested with them as far as, explaining what the program's all about. So I do really try to sit down with them and try to kind of point out the fact that, competing in college isn't the same as competing in high school, and the focus, the determination, the dedication, the commitment that it takes, it's not for everybody. And in many cases, I'll try to make sure that they understand the challenges involved, because I don't want them jumping into something and just assuming, okay, this is going to be easy and I'll be able to just, hop right in here and do great. I mean, it's probably not going to work out that way, but I've been shocked how many times it does work out that way.
Sure. You mentioned Anas, PRing multiple times this year. How about Justin Levine and the finish he had to his track and field career at Bates? I mean, obviously he was huge in cross country as well, a captain in cross country, but he was PRing, it seemed like almost every week in track and field this year, and actually ended up qualifying for nationals. What made him such a strong athlete for you over these past 4 years in terms of what he's been able to do, especially this senior season?
Well, I think when you think of Justin, you think of one word, and that one word is determination. I don't know that I've known as many determined people in my life as Justin is, and for a distance runner, that's a tremendous quality to have. I think back on his sophomore year, he was having a great year, and it was during the outdoor season. And every race he seemed to be running faster and faster, and it's like, okay, this is great. He's really coming along, looking super, and a lot of times, guys, at the end of the long year, particularly at the end of the outdoor season, guys that are running longer races like the 5,000 meters, a lot of times they tend to get tired mentally and physically, and they have a hard time going on. And, so we're thinking about that with Justin, trying to be strategic about, how we ran him and how often we ran him. But he was just, he was just hard-nosed. And he said, no, I want to go. I know I can go. I know I can run faster. And he was taking week after week trying to take those shots at trying to break 15 minutes in 5K. And that was something that was really motivating him. And, every one, it would be like 15:01, 15 flat, 0.3, 15 flat, 0.1, and it was just, but he never gave up that pursuit, and he wanted to do that. He got that done earlier this year, and then all of a sudden he started to realize it's like, nationals is a possibility, and he just continued to show that determination. He continued to challenge himself and to step up to the challenges. I mean, the way he qualified in that last meet at Tufts was really impressive, because ultimately it turned out that there were basically two people in the race, him and one other guy. And that's not an easy way to run an all-time lifetime best in a race like the 5,000 meters. But, it just, again, somebody of less determination and less character would never have been able to make that happen. But he's one of those guys that refused to not be successful.
And then Jack McLaren, a senior, star in the classroom, all academic every single semester, just a tremendous job there. And also, sticking with the program, distance runner. What did he bring to the table? What was he like to have on the team?
He was one of those classic walk-ons. He contacted us the summer before his freshman year and said, hey, I ran cross country in high school. I'd like to do it, and in college and all that type of stuff. And I basically told him how hard it was going to be and how it wasn't made out. It wasn't made for everybody. But he continued not to be too intimidated by that. He continued to push back. I think when I think of Jack, I think of an overcomer, because Jack has he has a kind of a asthmatic medical condition that again isn't really ideal for a collegiate distance runner who requires, your lungs and your pulmonary system to be a huge part of what you're doing. And he's had to deal with occasional attacks where he's had to stop. We've had to seek medical attention for him. We've had to do some other things. And again, but he's persistent. He's as consistent, as a runner as he is in the classroom every single day. I think he ended up with a 4.0. If he didn't, he's awfully darn close to it. He just kept overcoming. He'd have an episode. He would take the time he needed to recover. He'd get checked out medically. He would do the things he needed to do, take care of the precautions, make sure he had his medications with him, do all the things he had to do. But he's, again, just kind of like the little engine that could. He just refused to give in to the fact that maybe he had some limitations that most runners wouldn't even, comprehend, continuing a competitive collegiate career with.
Yeah, all 4 years. That's obviously very impressive. And then Gabe Benson came back to the team this year after not being on the team on track and field last year, and he ended his career on a high note there at D3 New England's, looking at a PR there in the 1,000, PR a few weeks earlier, VU in the 800. So obviously you're talking about that, ending on a high note, and that's what Gabe did, right?
Yeah, and for Gabe, I just am really impressed that he had the perseverance to be able to hang in there, because to be, completely honest and open, he had a lot of frustrations in his career. There were a lot of times when he'd get in pretty good shape and then get injured, or, circumstances wouldn't allow him to be able to perform, at the best when he needed it. But he, again, hung in there, fought through all the ups and the downs, and that, again, speaks tremendously to the type of character a person has. Hung in there all the way, really wanted to make a difference. During the track seasons particularly, he used the cross-country season to get healthy, to kind of get prepared. And then he had fantastic senior, season. One of the things he did, he was a big scorer for us at the state meet indoors, and as that state meet turned out to be a dead tie with Bowdoin, every single little point was critical, and he was a big part of what we got done, in that meet, and certainly that, along with the fact that he ended his career as for the first time ever in his career, he was an individual qualifier for the New England Division III championships, and so I think that just really speaks highly to his perseverance to be able to stick through some of the setbacks and disappointments that came along.
Yeah, you touched on the state meet there. Obviously, that crazy tie with Bowdoin for both the men and the women there. And I know your assistant coach, Jacob Ellis, just wrote a 20-page reflection on it. But, give us a kind of cliff notes there. We'll always remember this season, unfortunately, because it ended early, but we'll also always remember because of what that crazy state meet it turned out to be, right?
Well, Coach Ellis is in the process of writing the Odyssey, I think, and describing the small idiosyncrasies that went on with that meet. It's just incomprehensible that you can have that many events, that many points available, that many athletes competing, and ultimately for both meets to come down to a tie in the exact same format at the end of the meet. You couldn't write that in the script. Although Ellis has done a great job in capturing it in his story. It was a remarkable night. Very interesting because traditionally that meet is a single gender meet. The women usually compete on Friday, the men on Saturday. And this year, because of a snowstorm on Friday that caused USM to cancel, we had to combine meets, and it was just a surreal atmosphere all night long. Of course, Bates and Bowdoin are very strong rivals, and we were all both going in on both sides, men and women, with the idea that this was a very important team meet for us, and we all wanted to do as well as we could. Many meets in track and field, you don't set your lineup up to win this meet or this event or whatever, but in the state meet, boy, you're going for it. You put everything together, and you're trying to use your the 45 guys or girls that you have on the team, and you're trying to maximize what their potential production can be. So it was really just amazing. And again, for it to end particularly with the blackout relay for the men, knowing that we had to win it to earn tie, and ultimately, from our perspective, a win, because we had seen Bowdoin as a significant favorite going into the meet, and so for us to be able to come back and do that, we certainly exceeded what our expectations were, and I think in many regards that put a little pressure on Bowdoin as well.
Certainly. Well, any other thoughts on this senior class of 6 that you wanted to share before we let you go here, Coach?
No, it's been a great group. I think one of the things that they'll be that their legacy will be will be the future direction of our program and where we go. We came back early this year in January and had a chance to sit down with the Purposeful Work department on campus and worked within our team to really kind of develop a set of visions and values that we were going to hold and incorporate in this year's team, which, by the way, we did extremely well, but also as a model for future teams and how we could function more effectively and work. And I got to say that everybody on the team really participated in that significantly, but specifically the captains were a huge input in that whole process. And we had a couple of junior captains and with Johnny Rex and Jeremy Bennett, and they did a fabulous job as well contributing to it. But then I'd go back to my cross country captains like Justin Levine and Ryan Nealis, and talked about things with them, and they had tremendous input. One of the things I've always talked about, we had 5 track captains. I had 2 different distance captains for cross country, but one of the things I always project to our team is that we can't leave the leadership to the captains. That's not who we're going to be about. We need to have a team where everybody's a leader, and this team did a really nice job coming together and really developing some concepts that I think are gonna play a big role in how the team, functions in the future. And so very, very thankful to them for the time, the seriousness, the intensity they put into, the thought process of trying to rough this out and kind of come up with the general concept of how this would look and what it would mean for future teams coming forward. So they definitely have left their mark and something that I'm very grateful for.
Next time on the Bates Bobcast, we'll salute our seniors from the women's lacrosse team, which hosted the final home event of the year at Bates, when the Bobcats went out on a high note with a win over USM. That's next time on the Bates Bobcast.
Bates, Bates,